Black Scully on check. Another graphic tee on check. Oh yeah, it must be another marvelous episode. And today we are talking about commissioner approval ratings for both the G5 and the P5 in one list. Of course, that means there are going to be 10 names. We're going to go from 10 to 1 to who I think is the worst to the best. Listen, CFB Nation got you covered on all things college football. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, and subscribe. Listen, college football content 24/7, 365. No off season with the CFB Nation. When a lot of these creators for college football kind of going to hibernation, we got you. We got you covered. And we're going to go all the way to Mobile. Year 2, we're going to be in Mobile covering the Senior Bowl. Also, we'll be at the NFL Combine and NFL Draft as well. I promise you, we got you covered. Stay tuned. Lock in. Governor College Football, hashtag GoCFB. CFB Nation, your only college football destination. Let's get it. Governor of College Football, we're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's
Two
CJ
great
on
defensive
that
minds.
keyboard.
They have to be better on that side of the ball. George Kliavkoff coming in at number 10, and if you know anything about me, you should have been expecting this one. Listen, I know he wasn't 100% to blame for the demise of the Pac-12. Yes, Larry Scott certainly played a role, and there were things that could have been done years ago to kind of prevent this, but if you are not a part of the solution, you are a part of the problem. George Kliavkoff, you had an opportunity, and in the fast casual business, we have this saying, you got 3 types of people: those who blame others, those who make excuses, and those who wait and hope. And George Kliavkoff, my friend, you waited and you hoped. And nothing happened. You was waiting for this media rights deal, making sure you get your teams ample amount of money. We kept believing. We were waiting to the end of the last media rights deal. Nothing. We were like, okay, yeah, Pac-12 media days is coming. Nothing. What did you expect? You can't expect us to feel sorry for you because Brett Yormark, being the type of guy he is, was like, hey, you come over here to the Pac-12. You don't want your producer all up in the videos. Come to the Big 12. We got you. George Kliavkoff, we do not feel sorry for you. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the 2-pack, and I think we'll talk about them a little bit later, but yo, you didn't make it happen. At the end of the day, I know you're not 100% to blame, my guy. It's not all on you. It's a bunch of circumstances that could have helped this, but at the end of the day, it was your name on it. You were part of the problem and not part of the solution. So thus, you come in at number 10 on these commissioner rankings. Coming in at number 9 is a person I respect a lot. Shout out to the Conference USA, and that's Judy McLeod. And really, the only reason she's at 9 is not because of her work. The work she's done has been phenomenal. Think about week 0. Some of the better week 0 games came out of Conference USA, and they kind of took the action route of giving us midweek games. Also, shout out to them because they gave me credentials to their conference championship game. I attended Liberty quite a few times and went to their games. I've always enjoyed Conference USA ball. Think about how well the transition was for Jacksonville State this year. Conference USA, damn good football. I enjoy it. I just wish that they had more teams. That's really the only reason why she's at number 9 is because they don't have enough teams. I mean, she got to be placed somewhere in the list. It's not from her work. Her work speaks for itself, but, you know, it is what it is. Moving right along to number 8 on our list is SBC Commissioner Keith Gill. Shout out to the SBC. SBC was another conference that treated CFB Nation very well. I will never forget, you know, in my heart, you know, I know we've grown a lot in year 1 and we'll continue to grow, and we will be one of the biggest college football platforms that is. People see this train is coming and you either get on board or get out the way. I'm telling you right now, that's our approach and that's how we acting and that's how we coming. I'm never going to forget those people who helped us in an earlier stage. Never forget them. Me and Nino will continue to do midweek previews. We will continue to do those things. It's not going to just be centered around these big games. We love college football. We don't care if it's a Monday game, Tuesday game, Wednesday game, Thursday game. We provided previews for all sorts of games, and I've attended games on Monday, on Tuesday. I think I went to a game every day of the week this past season. Somebody will have to correct me if I'm wrong. We went to a lot of games on a lot of different days. So shout out to the SBC. Love what their conference did this year. We went to Bridgeforth Stadium quite a few times to watch JMU, and they put on a show this year. Like, I advocated so much for them to be allowed to participate in a conference championship game as well as being bowl eligible. The NCAA has some antiquated rules. I don't like them. I feel like you should be able to make amendments to these rules. Like, if a team is clearly having no issues with the transition, there shouldn't be a transitional period. It is what it is. But I'll leave that argument for another day. But shout out to the SBC, App State, Troy, JMU. Is just solid football in that conference, and I'm thankful that we were able to watch a lot of their games this year from the field. Coming in at number 7, Mountain West Conference's Gloria Navarez. Fantastic job in year 1. I think that this conference is a budding conference, and it has an opportunity to do something spectacular. You look at the Fresno States of the world, you look at the Boise States of the world, you look at that run that Air Force had earlier in the season. This conference has brung it. You look at what the Pac-2 is about to do, and it's essentially what Notre Dame did during COVID back in 2020 when they were kind of a part of the ACC and they played in the ACC championship, and that's how they made it to the college football playoff. So when you look at that situation, you look at the fact that the 2-pack in Washington State and Oregon State are going to be able to play most of their core games will be played in Mountain West. Gloria has a huge opportunity to draw them in, and I believe that she can do, without a doubt in my mind, a better job than George Kliavkoff can do. She has the opportunity to expand, and I think she's going to expand. I think Mountain West is going to become, like, you're looking for that 5th conference. Of course, we can't call it the G5 anymore. I'm sorry, the P5 anymore. It'll be essentially a P4, but I think there's a couple moves that can be made where that can constitute as a Power 5 conference. It'll be difficult, but I think it can happen. Coming up in that number 6 spot, we're going to talk about a man that I really respect. I touched on this conference a little bit earlier. That's Dr. John Steinbrecher. Maction is a real thing. Like, if you love college football, like the way that we love college football, if it's Monday night and a college football game is on, I'm watching that. This midweek marketing that the MAC did, brilliant. It draws so much attention to their games. And like we see other G5 conferences are kind of following this blueprint of, hey, let's take advantage of the midweek. People are watching college football. College football in itself is budding. There's a lot of political BS. There's a lot of things that people who don't care about the sport are doing to the sport that are frustrating us, but we still love this game. At its pureness, college football is just elite. But you think about this blueprint that the MAC has created with midweek football games, and you think about how good Toledo was this year. They were a conference championship away from being in the New Year's Six Bowl. I think they would have got it over Liberty if they won their conference championship. You think about how good Ohio was. You think about how good Miami of Ohio was. Bowling Green was competitive this year. You just think about those teams in the MAC. It's like, I am happy to say I watched a lot of MAC games this year, but more importantly, I am happy to say that me and Nino covered a lot of these teams this year as well when we do these game previews. We don't forget about G5 at all. Coming in at number 5 is AAC's commissioner. Happy trails to him. He just retired, Mike Oresco. You think about G5 football, and I know I just said all those great things about the MAC, but I feel like for the better part of the last 3 years or so, I feel like the AAC kind of ran G5. You look at how good Tulane was last year. They got the New Year's Six Bowl bid last year, was able to handle business versus USC. You think about it, I think if Tulane was able to beat SMU in a championship game, it would have been a close call with them or Liberty, who gets that New Year's Six Bowl bid. AAC football, highly competitive. You have so many different styles of play in the AAC. I think if you look across all conferences, not only Group of 5, but also Power 5, I think if you look for the different type of play styles, I think one could argue that there's more play styles in the AAC than any other conference. Coming in at number 4, my guy Jim Phillips, and I told this story before. I'll tell a story again. When we went to the ACC media kickoff back in June or July of last year, when we walked into the Western Charlotte, it's this feeling like I got dreads, Mike got dreads, Moon was with us. Like, it's just feelings that you get like we was just getting these weird looks, right? Like we didn't belong, right? But by the end of it, everybody knew who we were. The first person to come up to us and shake our hands, I think Dino Babers was the second person, but the first person was Jim Phillips. He looked us in our eyes. He shook our hands. He said, "Thanks for coming," but that's the easy part. You're a commissioner. That's the easy part. By actually having a conversation with us, that's the difference. So I respect that, man. So what I'm about to say next is actually going to kind of hurt because he's a stand-up dude. But at the end of the day, I'm going to do this list. I'm going to do it the way I'm supposed to do it. Florida State, a Power 5 team for the first time in a playoff era, went 13-0, undefeated, and did not make the college football playoff. We know why. We don't even got to speak on why they didn't make it. We know why. And like I told Nino, I think even if Jordan Travis weren't hurt, I don't think they had a chance to make it, if I'm just being honest. And he released a statement immediately after the playoff like he was supposed to do. But Jim Phillips, the issue was you were too politically correct. You need to put it on the table. Because I'm telling you, if Alabama was left out the college football playoff and Commissioner Greg Sankey didn't get nobody in, I bet you his message wouldn't have been like that. It'd have been some real talk. It'd have been some real pulling up some strings and like, oh, yeah, we got this deal with ESPN next year, and y'all got none of my teams in this illustrious conference in the college football playoff. Is you dumb? It would have been an entire different story, but because Jim Phillips took the high road, I feel like the message wasn't felt the same way. He didn't use the correct verbiage. It should have been power in his words. He might have needed to use a few expletives in his word to understand the pain that we felt as a community with Florida State not making the college football playoff, and he just didn't get it done. He didn't. Jim Phillips, you my guy. I respect the hell out you. Can't wait to see you at next ACC Media Days. But politically correct was not the way to go. You should have been politically incorrect, and you should have used a few words that would have hurt some feelings. Coming up next, year one for Tony Petitti in the Big Ten. He had an interesting year this year. I said from the beginning of the season, I thought Michigan was the best team in college football. Yet to be seen. I think in the regular season they kind of prove it. They got to win it all to prove it ultimately. But you think about the sign stealing scandal. You know, Tony Petitti, that's a tough job in year one. Because when you're taking over a role, there's a few things you want to do. You want to show people that you're genuine as a commissioner. So being able to have his board of governors, the athletic directors, have that vote of confidence that, hey, I'm a guy that you can come to whenever you need help. But you also want to show people that you're firm and like, yo, I can handle this situation. I got the gonads to make sure that things are handled the way that they need to be handled. And this sign stealing scandal, I feel like he was put kind of in a purgatory. And let me explain, because, you know, he brings down extremely tough sanctions to Michigan, and Michigan may be the team that can win this conference, which they ultimately did win the conference and have a shot of making the playoff. Do you, A, give them hard sanctions and show your other, you know, board of governors like, hey, I got you, I support you. You want these guys to be taken care of and be penalized. I'm going to make sure that they're taken care of and penalized. He had such a hard job to do in year one, dealing with this, dealing with the negative attention that Michigan was getting, that Coach Harbaugh was getting. He was in a tough slot. But, you know, not that he did it 100%, but, you know, they were able to secure USC, UCLA, Washington, and Oregon. And I think that's going to bring some excitement to Big Ten football, because I'm going to be frank. There were some games in the Big Ten this year that were boring with a capital B. And I didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoy Big Ten football. Like watching Iowa play this year, and D-Now's my guy. I enjoy Hawks and X podcast. But some of the games were just difficult to watch. I believe that those 4 teams that are coming to their conference are going to bring a lot of excitement to that conference. And it was just so dominated, you know, by the teams, and I'm glad they're getting rid of the divisions, so dominated by, you know, Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State, and Iowa in the West, if we being frank. I just think that this conference needs more excitement, so we got that coming up. The guy that I have at number 2, I spoke on him a little bit earlier, is a guy that I almost put at number 1, and that's Brett Yormark. Brett Yormark, if how to handle a disaster 101, he should write a book on that. With Oklahoma and Texas, you're talking about 2 of the top 5 highest grossing teams from a money perspective in our sport. Go to another conference, you either A, like cry about it, like another commissioner did that we're not going to speak on, or you B, you hit the road and you start finding teams to come to your conference, and that's exactly what he did. It was like a couple of weeks after UConn won the men's national championship in basketball, he was at their university telling them, like, hey, if you don't want the producer all up in the videos, come to the Big 12. Like, Brett Yarmark did such a great job with getting teams to come to the conference, not only, with Colorado, Arizona State, and Utah, but also securing UCF, a budding program, securing Houston, securing BYU, securing Cincinnati, who was great in the AAC for years. You just got to look at this guy and be like, yo, that is how to handle a disaster 101. And he really should be number one on this list. I went back and forth for a while because I know the SEC faithful would have killed me. I would have got death threats if I didn't have our guy, Greg Sankey, at number one. Just the type of guy that, to me, moves like a mob boss almost, like so smooth with it. Like I said, if Alabama and Georgia were both left out of the college football playoff, which ultimately Georgia was, there would have been a different type of tone that Greg Sankey had versus the one that Jim Phillips had now that Florida State was left out of it. You think about that 3:30 slot, you just think about the games that the SEC gives you. Like, get to see Missouri cook up this year. Getting to see Auburn. Auburn was competitive this year. Texas A&M, ultimately, coaching changed, but they were competitive this year. You just think about LSU, how exciting it was to watch LSU games this year. Alabama, those games were exciting. Georgia, they had a game against Vandy that was kind of like a back-and-forth battle until Georgia pulled away at the end. You just look at their conference. Their conference is, and has for a while now, always been a staple as a college football conference. You add the addition of OU and Texas, which I will be doing a video in a few weeks about how I think these teams that are going to new conference will fare. It'd be like a four-episode series or 3-episode series. SEC just gets it. And that's why, all the big content creators in this field, they tend to flock towards the SEC games just because it's just a brand of football that you can't duplicate. Even the NFL can't duplicate it. I am the governor of college football, and this is the governor of college football. As I always like to say, do something nice for somebody you normally wouldn't do. Always pay it forward. Peace and love. Peace and blessings. Until next time, y'all know what it is. Governor of college football, we're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's
Two
CJ
great
on
defensive
the
minds.
track.
They have to be better on that side of the ball.